All discussions about the Arab Spring and what it means brings to mind the legendary story told about Richard Nixon when he went to China the first time in 1972. There's a story told of Kissinger was prepping Nixon before he went to Beijing to meet with Zhou Enlai, and he told Nixon that he should know that the Chinese chairman is an expert, he's a maven on the French Revolution of 1789. So Nixon takes this information, he puts it into his pocket, he lands in the airport, he has dinner with Zhou Enlai, and he tries to break the ice, and he says, "Mr. Zhou, tell me, sir, what do you think was the biggest impact of the French Revolution on Western civilization?" To which Zhou Enlai looks at the president and goes, "Mr. President, it's too early to tell." Right? And if that was the case from the French Revolution, that's definitely the case today as we look at the Arab Spring. This is obviously an important and key topic here, for its ramifications will impact on us, on the Israelis, directly and immediately. But one of the most startling things about this whole Arab Spring was the degree to which no one here, right, saw it coming. 2 days before Mubarak was toppled in Cairo, there was a briefing in the foreign ministry with one of the foreign minister's top Middle East hands. And he took us into the room and he said that the situation with Mubarak has stabilized, he seemed to be in control, and there looked like there would be an orderly transition, right? 2 days later, Mubarak was kicked out of office. Now that's humbling, right? That is very humbling. Nobody saw this coming. Not the US intelligence, not the European intelligence, not the Israeli intelligence, and not the Egyptian intelligence, right? And you can say that it's very problematic that no one saw that this cataclysmic event was happening, but what's even more disconcerting from an Israeli point of view is that no one really knows where it's going to end, where and how it is going to end. And that uncertainty plays heavily on the Israeli psyche, which is the point that I want to discuss just very briefly, because I think that too often there's not a proper appreciation abroad of the Israeli psyche and how the average Israeli's real sense of insecurity plays on his mind, impacts on how he views reality, and eventually filters up and shapes government policy. And I think the best example of this is the Second Intifada. Right? I think that September 2000, when the Second Intifada broke out, that was a transformative event in Israeli history. There's post-Intifada Israel and there's pre-Intifada Israel, and they're not the same. Right? To a large extent, I think it's fair to say that the country was mugged by reality. During those 5 years, from 2000 to 2005, people were genuinely and intimately and forcefully worried about their own security. Right? Life went on, and that's a testament to the country's amazing resilience. But the fears of taking buses, or putting your kids on buses, or taking your family to a restaurant inside Jerusalem, those were real fears, and they affected on everybody. Everybody felt it. Everybody knew somebody who was impacted by the violence, and it had a huge impact on the Israeli psyche. If, as we say, indeed, Israel is the Jewish home, then let's take a look at the home for a minute, right? Down south, you have Qassam rockets going through the windows of the home. Up north, you have 40,000 missiles ready to fall on the roof of the home. You have suicide bombers who want to skip over the fence and blow up, inside the home. And you have the Iranian president every day standing up and saying he wants to blow up the entire edifice. Now, that's the mindset that the Israelis wake up to in the morning, and it's a mindset which is important to take into consideration when you consider what the government does. So much of the country's policies, from the security fence to the roadblocks, to the Second Lebanon War, to Operation Cast Lead in Gaza, must be seen within the prism of trying to alleviate the population's real sense of vulnerability and insecurity. And now, if you add on to all that insecurity, you add on the uncertainty about the Arab Spring, right? Now you have questions being asked about what's going to happen with Egypt. Will Cairo demand a revisitation of the treaty? Will the people there demand that the treaty to be abridged? You have this insecurity that we all feel, and now you have this uncertainty piled upon it, and it creates a real problem. And then you have the situation in Jordan, right? There's nothing that would impact more on Israel's security situation than a situation where, God forbid, the Jordanian king is toppled, right? It's not a completely inconceivable scenario. And then you would have perhaps a situation on the Jordanian border similar to our situation on the Gaza border. And imagine what that would do to the country. And then, of course, there's Syria and the chaos in Syria. Right? We, in Israel, we don't like chaos. We like stability, we like certainty, we like predictability. Assad is a ruthless, brutal dictator arming our worst enemies, but he was predictable. Now we're clueless about what's going to happen there. But whatever happens there, we know that whoever takes control is not necessarily going to be coming from the Damascus branch of Peace Now. Right? Their policies towards Israel aren't going to change that dramatically, but we are not going to know how they're going to react like we knew to a large degree how Assad would react. Now, I realize that there are all kinds of opportunities in all this, right? I get that. Taking Syria out of the Iranian axis is a positive thing if it happens. But the fact that we don't know, that everything is so uncertain, adds to our uncertainty, our insecurity. Now, how things turn out in this Arab Spring is very, like I said, is very real and immediate for us individually. We do not have the luxury to sit back and say, I quote, that we're for the side propelled by a quest for freedom, dignity, and justice, as the New York Times' Thomas Friedman wrote in those first giddy days of the Egyptian Revolution. Friedman, at the time, in an editorial, he castigated Israel for not coming out strongly in favor of those in Tahrir Square. As he always does, he came up with a very pithy little line. He said that the children of Israel, quote, he said, quote, the children of Egypt were having their liberation moment, and the children of Israel decided to side with the Pharaoh right to the very end. Now, the problem with Friedman is that there's no guarantee that those folks who were demonstrating in the squares, poisoned as they were over these years by an anti-Semitic press and an anti-Israel atmosphere that prevailed despite the peace process, there was no guarantee that they will want to keep the peace with this country. And if they don't, then we're going to pay the price. So allow us our skepticism. We weren't rooting for Pharaoh. We were worried about how this is going to impact immediately upon our security and the security of our kids. And it's amid this overall sense of insecurity that if we try to push real hard on the Palestinian front right now, Israel is going to be asked to take huge, huge risks. And I'm not sure that the public, which in the past has proven that it is willing to take risks, is in the same frame of mind right now to do that. Now, add to this, like Udi said, add to this an underlying skepticism here about Obama, about President Obama, and to what degree Israel can count on him, and you're facing an Israeli public which right now is feeling very, very insecure. So when Netanyahu talks about the need for ironclad security assurances on the ground so Israel can withstand any unexpected changes in the region, though in some of your countries this may come across as foot-dragging, here there's a lot more resonance to it. And finally, the last point I'd like to talk about is I think there's some real conceptual differences between how Obama and how Netanyahu view reality. We've seen this over the last 2 years, and this has been the cause of friction. You had the whole thing about sequencing. What do you do first? You go after Iran first, like Israel would want, and then deal with the Palestinians, or deal with the Palestinians, like Obama first said, and then go after Iran. The whole land for peace thing with the American president still, I think, very much a believer in land for peace, and Israel burned by the last number of years, not exactly there anymore. Those were conceptual differences. And now, I think what the Arab Spring has done is it's kind of added yet another layer upon the conceptual differences. And what is that? It's you have a situation where what Netanyahu is saying essentially is we look around at everything going around us, and what we want to do is we want to sit back a little bit, and we want to see that after, we want the dust to settle, and then we can decide what we're going to do. But let's sit back, let's not rush headlong into anything. And you have the President of the United States saying the exact opposite, as he said on his speech to the State Department that fateful Thursday night last month. Right, what did he say? He said, there are people out there who want us to sit and wait, those people meaning Netanyahu, but my position as a president is I think we have to take advantage of the situation, right? And what is he saying? He's saying that this is the time to move forward, because if you can create some kind of positive momentum on the Israeli-Palestinian tract, in his mind, this will radiate throughout the region. So that's a major conceptual gap, and I think it's a conceptual gap that right now is causing more friction between the two, friction that already existed in the past. So you see that the Arab Spring does have impact on us both directly and indirectly.